inspiration. A foundation still important today, the process of sharing words strung together that help point out the way, the many voices within each page. Turn pages from the past that resonate with you today. Turn pages today that create an escape within your mind. Turn pages that express a treasure within your tomorrow. Turn pages that hold a future for you to follow. We are turning pages.
Hello, my name is Mustafa Hakeem. I am a third-year student here at Boise State University, and I'm double majoring in finance and business administration. I am originally from Mosul, Iraq. My family and I moved here to Idaho when I was about 5 or 6 years old. Growing up in Boise, I was kind of known as being a shy kid, especially in the classroom and outside the classroom. I really didn't talk much just because, well, for one, there was a language barrier. So I had to kind of get over that at first. And the way I kind of went about that was through sports. And as an example, when I went to Taft in my elementary school years, I noticed a big way of kind of making friends and connecting with other people was through sports. And that first started with soccer just during recess, and then kind of transitioned to playing basketball, with my friends, and then actually joining the Taft basketball team. And I feel like that was a great way of connecting with others and kind of just, making new friends and, having meaningful conversations with others. So at a young age, I honestly struggled with math pretty often, throughout just about all my time in school. I was honestly struggling with math. And now looking back at it, I feel like the scary part about math is kind of understanding the difference between math and other subjects. As in other subjects such as, English, history, science, you're pretty used to, achieving higher grades, and you would be called proficient if you would get like a high C, B, or A in the class. But I feel like with math, that's a little bit different, and I feel like the grading system is a little bit more complex with that. For example, when I took an exam or a quiz or an assignment, obviously my first instinct was, I'll try to get a B or A as hard as I can in this class or on this specific assignment. And sometimes that wouldn't work out. And it was super challenging because I felt like there was only one way to get to the final answer in math, but there really isn't. A lot of students, take different journeys and different paths to getting the answer in the end. And a funny story, actually, when I first started at Boise State, my very first class ever as a freshman here was a math class. So as the professor walked in and kind of introduced herself and talked a little bit about the curriculum, the director of the math department came in after her and kind of was introducing himself. He kind of asked a random question to the class that we kind of all looked at each other. He asked, "Does anyone know Steph Curry's field goal percentage?" And we kind of just thought that was funny. We were kind of, looking around like, how does this relate to what we're about, to learn today? And after he spoke a little bit, he mentioned that even arguably the greatest shooter ever in basketball shoots only at 48% field goal percentage. And he kind of related that to math and mentioned that even in the classroom, even when he was getting his math degree, most of the exams or tests he would get, he wouldn't usually score more than 50% of the questions right, just because math is a challenging topic, and it's really not about getting the answer right. It's really just about the journey you're taking and how you're progressing to getting that answer. And so that kind of helped me understand that my struggle was, it was okay. It was okay to struggle in math just because, others do as well. And even professional athletes, they don't always make 100% of their shots. And it's kind of the same thing with math. You can't just go into a math class expecting to get an A right away. You definitely have to work towards it. And after just keep trying hard and persevering and learning from your mistakes, then you'll eventually be successful. So as a young kid, when I really found my calling to be a business and finance major and kind of be a professional in that industry, was after growing up in America with my parents. I noticed that, big retail companies and credit card companies would honestly take advantage of them just because they weren't too financially literate. and they didn't really know much about saving their money, how to use credit, good and bad credit. And watching that from a young age, it was honestly like a huge learning experience. Just because watching that, I kind of felt helpless in the sense of knowledge being power, and that the more you learn, the more you know. So that's really what helped me decide I wanted to go into business and finance especially. When I was a young kid, I for sure didn't think I was going to go into a major that required a lot of math, just because that wasn't my strongest suit. But after going through those experiences and wanting to learn more about that and wanting to be more financially free in the future, and kind of helping out my friends and family, that's kind of when I realized that finance and business was something that I really wanted to strive for in college. So being an immigrant here in Boise, from a young age, I really didn't know what to expect when I got older and what I should really be going after, just because I really had no role models in my life that were either in the corporate world or had a college education or anything that's kind of a norm in America. So the only thing I really had to look up to was my mother. She has such a great work ethic, and that's really all I needed to chase my goals and dreams every day, was kind of watching her go to work every day, from the morning, coming back at evening sometimes, 8, 9 p.m. When the restaurant she works at closes, and coming back super tired and still making time for us, and then going to work the very next day. After looking at her work ethic, I really got inspired to become a hardworking individual. As soon as I turned about like 15 or 16, that's even when I got my first job. My first job was actually at a drive-in that sold like burgers and fries. It was right across Taft. I think it's still there today. That was my very first job as a cook. Making minimum wage when I was 15 or 16, being super excited that I actually got an opportunity to work, and then going through high school, kind of balancing my school, balancing being on a sport like basketball, and then still having time to work. And even to this day, I feel like I kind of count myself as a high achiever. In college, I'm going into my third year here at Boise State, and the president of the Business Professionals of America Club here at Boise State, which is awesome. I have a job as a market manager for a online rewards app company as well, so I get the experience of learning how to be a leader within a small company, and also interning. Like, for example, this upcoming summer I will be in Salt Lake City interning as a PepsiCo sales management intern, so that's going to be awesome. I'm super excited for that. But yeah, definitely being a kid at Taft and not really knowing English, looking forward to my future. I really didn't know where I was going to end up, but I just knew as long as I worked hard and kind of strived for the things I wanted to achieve in life, then the opportunities will definitely be there for me to take. So a book I wanted to introduce to everybody was a book called The World Is Not a Rectangle, a portrait of architect Zaha Hadid by J.Winter. And then a page that really resonated with me that I wanted to go over today was, Hadid means iron in Arabic, and Zaha is strong as iron. She keeps on working, one plan after another. And then in quotations, I made a conscious decision not to stop. Zaha Hadid, she is actually an architect from Iraq, and she was born in the early 50s. So being born as an Arab, Muslim, and a woman in the early 50s, it was kind of unusual to see that type of person become an architect. It was kind of not taken seriously and laughed at by others in her profession. And Zaha Hadid actually moved to England to pursue her dream. And she ran through a lot of obstacles in her life, and she kind of just persevered and got through them all. I actually first heard about Zaha Hadid, I think it was about earlier this year during the World Cup matches. I noticed that one of the stadiums had an unusual design, and then after kind of looking into it and seeing on social medias and on the news that it was actually a design by Zaha Hadid, the Iraqi architect. And unfortunately she passed away in around like 2016, but she still had this design made up for a stadium that kind of resembled a shell or a cocoon of some sort. And I just thought it was amazing that even through all of the obstacles that were stacked up against her, just as she was born, she ignored all those and kind of just put her head down and worked, and now she's a super successful architect and has a great company and brand behind her. Something I wanted to leave you with was that just because you're struggling in a certain aspect of life or a subject doesn't mean that you're not necessarily good at it. It just means you need more practice. And that's something that I've kind of adopted into my mindset as becoming a learner, is that I'm obviously not going to be good at, most things that I've tried for the first time, and kind of just persevering through that, just like this architect did, Mrs. Hadid. Yeah, struggle doesn't mean that you should stop. It just means that you need more practice. And, even in math, I've definitely failed, a math class before, but that didn't really stop me. That kind of just motivated me to keep going and practice even more, and really just end up where I want to be in the future, and don't take any obstacles as a reason to stop. Kind of just use that as motivation. And my name is Mustafa Hakeem, and this is what mathematicians do.